Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Unmasking Mum, the podcast. It is our launch event, but you will be listening to this after the launch event. So thank you so much for listening. I am very privileged to have my friend and the amazingly wonderful and weird Holly Matthews. Thank you so much for being here. Oh.
So excited. I'm so excited for you. I love the branding. I love the concept. I love you. I'm so excited for this.
Honestly, you are the person that I just thought to have the first guest because we have been through how eight, 7, 8 years that I've known you. We have both been on very different journeys, and it's just been lovely to be able to know you throughout this whole time and space and being and kind of the ADHD. I was thinking this earlier, like, have you always known you had ADHD? Because I know you knew Ross was autistic.
Did I always know? No, because we didn't really know what ADHD was.
Yeah.
Or we did, and it was standard cliched, way of thinking. But we just didn't really know what it was, did we? You know, grow up in the 90s and 80s, 90s, 2000s. Nobody talked about it. I always knew that I felt different. So over the years, whether it was to people, friends or whatever, or to therapists, or I would describe it in different ways. And I understand that now looking back. But I would often say that I felt like often I was like I was behind a pane of glass, and I had learned. So I was really young when I became an actress, and that now makes a lot more sense to me. My first acting class, by the way, I remembered was called Sit and Fidget. Right.
Perfect.
It was perfect. So everyone there is definitely neurodivergent. And so I think I just would describe it as that I learned to cosplay as a neurotypical person. That's literally what I did when I was acting. I thought, if I act like this, it gets this response. And I was really good at it. And that meant that in school, I was in the popular group in school. I was seemingly on the surface, I was doing a really great impression of somebody who was okay. And behind the scenes and internally, I just felt completely disconnected. So I just felt like I was behind this glass pane, and everybody was clapping for this version of me that and connected to it. And I was like, I don't know why you're connected with this. Like, I'm not connected with you at all. But I would, and so I always, I always knew there was something different. And when my husband was diagnosed with autism, and I started to look at that a bit more, I definitely thought, am I autistic? And then at the time, things have moved on since then. And I would very safely say that I definitely I don't think I would be diagnosed with autism, but I definitely have lots of traits that would sit within that space. And so it made sense why I was looking at Ross and going, because I suspect Ross was probably ADHD. I don't think he was strictly autism. He was diagnosed with Asperger's at the time because it was earlier on before this newer wave. But for me, I looked at it then and I was like, I wonder if I'm autistic then. I wonder if that's what it is. I wonder if that's why I'm weird in the negative sense. And I looked and I was like, well, it said things like not great social. I mean, we know this, and we know this for those of you that are autistic or now understand that. We'll know that times have changed, and we understand that the way we explain it for women is different to how we would see it for men. And that would have probably made more sense to me. And also, I guess my very literal brain wouldn't have been able to answer those questions without being really literal. So I'm going, it's like, do you collect things? And I'm like thinking, like, do you collect things? Examples, like, random things that boys collect. And I'm like, no, of course I don't, because I am very literal thinking.
Yeah.
So I looked at all of that stuff then, but didn't really explore it again. I had been told, so because of the world that I'm in, it's all thinky people. So throughout the years, twice, separate people, a psychologist, a friend, so not in a setting of like therapy, had said, you do know you're ADHD, don't you? And I instantly, and I'm sure some of you guys will know, I instantly thought, what did I say wrong? What did I do wrong? I'm in trouble. I did something wrong. I didn't explore it at all. I just shut it down. No, I'm not. What are you talking about? No, I'm not. And it was only really, when Brooke started to explore it that I sort of started to look at, and a few clients of mine were ADHD. And I was like, what's weird about those things? They seem like how everybody does them. So I'd ask questions and I was like, so people don't do that? Oh, okay, interesting. And then that's, as a lot of us, we go down that sort of journey of understanding, and then looking back and going, I can see why this was difficult now.
Yeah. I realize we've jumped straight into this and we haven't actually introduced who you are. Like, so do you want to just give everyone a bit of backlog just in case like people don't know who you are?
Sure, lots more. So my background is I was an actress from 11 years old, and typical ADHD style, I wrote a letter and asked for a job. And they did give me a job. So that was nice of them. And I grew up on TV. So that, when I talk about that masking side, I really became good at it. Like I became a literal professional actress. And that meant that everybody applauded success. And they didn't see how difficult it was to get. Acting wasn't hard. That was easy. But everything else was hard. And I could run at it at a sprint and make it happen, but at a cost. Yeah, my background is acting, and I thought that's all I would ever do. However, outside of acting, typical ADHD style, I did many different things to put food on the table. And I'd always done self-development stuff for myself, because being an actor was hard. And because actually, like a lot of you, no doubt in here, I was trying to understand. I didn't know that it was coming from a space of being neurodivergent, and just felt weird. And I knew that I didn't fit into what I was supposed to do. And I wasn't connecting in the way that people expected me to. People would say to me, "You're doing that to be weird. You're doing that on purpose," a lot. And I would go, yeah, I'm doing it on purpose. What's weird about it? Like so I was always interested in people. So I was always in the background alongside performance. I was reading psychology books and I was trying to understand my mind. And then when my husband was diagnosed with brain cancer, I had 2 kids at the time. And then 3.5 years later, he died of brain cancer. And I don't say that to rush through it or be flippant, but of course, we're not talking about grief here. And I talk about it a lot. And I think actually, in some respects, Ross dying was also part of that discovery, because up until that point in my life, I had been free to do whatever the hell I wanted. And from leaving school, I mean, even in school, I wasn't in school all the time. I had flitted and been ADHD and done the things and not done the things, and, just lived an ADHD life. And then I became a parent, but Ross was there, and Ross was autistic. So Ross took the load of the boring adult stuff that I didn't want to do, the bills and the numbers. And, I've joked about this before, but Ross once said to me, and those that are autistic might enjoy this, those that are ADHD might want to peel their eyelids off. But Ross once said to me, I can't wait till I'm old so I can really read the instructions to the oven.
What?
No, no, no. So having someone like that around who will take their time with things, he once bought 50 wallets to trial them, just to trial them. This was the best one. And so for me, having him there when I had kids and was being a grown-up, where you have to be somewhere with the kids, they have to go to school, people are asking things, the school are asking me stuff all the time, every day has got to be the same, or to some extent. He was there to pick up the slack there. When Ross wasn't there, not only was I grieving and had grieving children, suddenly I have to be an adult on my own with kids. And that, for me, and I have met other widows where this has been the case as well, suddenly I have to be a grown up, and all of the ADHD was so evident. I just wanted to flit and do the things that I normally did. And there wasn't somebody there to pick up where I would mess up. And so I think that was also, part of the story. But Ross's death and Ross's illness then took me into the space of self-development in real life and away from acting. I just didn't want to do acting anymore. It just didn't excite me in the same way. And I jumped into being a self-development coach and training and doing all the stuff that we do, hypnotherapy, NLP, and really obsessively, I've always loved that stuff. Like, I'm obsessed with trying to help people to feel more happy and less crappy. And that's always been there. That has always been there from really being young. But that has then took me on to the Happy Me project, came about after my husband's death, which is events and books and a membership community. And it very much has had a life of its own and has seen me have 2 best-selling books which have been translated into about 5 languages, and I have a publisher in Mexico. And today I just saw my book is in my second book is in Poland, and they just sent me the cover because it's like a different cover in some countries. And it's just wild. Like it's my first book just got translated into Arabic. It's insane. Like, so I've had lots of success since my husband's death, which is a weird thing. And it's not in spite of it, it's because of it, which is a weird place to put in your brain. But I guess in some respects it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, there's no, as with a lot of us with ADHD, there's never, I could talk for 3 hours and we would still not run out of stories of the things that I have done. But I am a self-development coach or an intuitive psychology coach who focuses on confidence and self-belief, and most importantly, being your weirdest self. And I think that as it in itself, being your weirdest self for me is the culmination of everything that I've ever done. And all of the stuff, no doubt, we will talk about in your spaces, because a lot of us in here and a lot of your listeners will have felt like the weirdo in the most negative sense. And when I'm talking about it, I'm talking your weird is your authenticity. Your weird is the good, the bad, the ugly, the mess, the chaos, the joy, the success. It's all of it. Your weird is what makes you unique. And that, for me, being able to help pull that out of people and help them to give themselves permission, and especially when they're neurodivergent and they're picking, they're unpicking a whole lifetime of people telling them they weren't good enough or they were too much. That is an obsession, because life has taught me that we're not here that long, and whatever you believe about an afterlife, I want you to have fun in this one, because this one's short. So yeah, so that's kind of my background and how I got into the space of self-development.
I love that. And with the kind of the way you're going at the minute with like your weird stuff, I feel I was definitely like the odd one out in my friendship group, because I was the one who liked to wear lipstick rather than lip gloss. Like, I didn't necessarily go with the trends, and I kind of used to wear like quirky things. And I was like the weird kid who loved like doing all like the drama stuff. And I think when I went to drama school, it was probably the time when I was most authentically myself. And then going straight from that and into motherhood, the kind of like, there's definitely been times where I have been, again, more myself, but especially since my dad died, who was definitely a massive, made accommodations for my ADHD without me knowing what it was for. And like that completely threw my life. And I feel like I'm finally, like, with the realization of the ADHD, starting to actually like just lean into it as well. Like, I didn't go and see Wicked like last year, and then I just kind of like was like, if I can't see it live, I'm not going to see it at all. And then I was like, if I don't watch it, it's something I really want to watch, then like I'm never going to do it. So I just need to like lean into it more. So I think like, have you, is that how you felt like as you've been kind of like unmasking? Like, I mean, you've kind of always had this connection with like your acting and stuff, but do you feel like since you've been doing more of like your understanding of the ADHD and your like your weird parties, like is that you leaning into your authentic?
Yeah. So I think, like, when I went for an assessment, I mean, I was fairly confident I knew what the answer would be, but it was still jarring,
Mm.
probably because I don't like being told what to do or what I am. So the minute they said you have mixed type ADHD, like within, like, it's like it's so easy for me to diagnose this. It's very, very obvious. My instant response was in my head, no, I'm not. even though, I like, it was just like a, don't tell me who I am. And I think it shocked me. My response to it felt like a grieving, like it felt like a knew I wasn't making that up. And I think my dad, who is definitely ADHD, my mum is feral ADHD, undiagnosed, and I say this to her in a nice way, not calling her feral all the time, but she is, and as a lot of us, it comes from somewhere. So when you tell parents who are autistic or ADHD that you think that these are the reasons, and I saw someone do a post on this and it made me laugh the other day. You might have seen it, but it was someone saying the cruel trick of the fact that you have to ask parents who have been like, you've got to ask your parents who've eaten the same meal every day for 20 years and the one that collects buttons if your stuff is weird when you were younger. Like, it feels like a cruel trick. Like, they are it. It's them. So I said it to my dad, and my dad went, why do you need to? My dad particularly is very supportive, and they've always, like your dad, always embraced they would have just said she's creative. She's just creative. That's why she's like that. But they've always embraced that and encouraged it. But I think he said to me, why bother now? Like, you've got this far. And my instant answer without thinking was shame, because we spend so much of our life in shame and struggling unnecessarily. And I watched a documentary. I don't know where I found it, so don't quote me on this. I think it might have been like Amazon. But there was a thing on it which explained ADHD, and they were talking about rats, right? And they had rats with ADHD, rats without ADHD. This is so basic how I'm explaining this, but essentially this experiment that they did, they put this trail where it definitely wasn't cheese, but let's just say it was cheese, like it's a cartoon, where the rat had to go and get this piece of cheese, right? The rats who were neurotypical went the obvious choice, like the obvious choice to get to where the cheese was. They went the obvious route. The ADHD rats tried to jump off. They got back up again, had to start again. They ran around. Now, the interesting thing, and this, I think you'll get this, the rats got the cheese at the same time, but the ADHD rat was absolutely exhausted because they'd done it in such a difficult way. They'd made it hard for themselves. When I watched that, I was like, that's it. And that's why no one sees it, especially in women, because we are scrapping in the background, internalizing all this anxiety. And everyone, when you eventually get that diagnosis, goes, I don't see what the problem was. And you're like, I'm sure you don't. I'm sure you don't, because I internalized it. So the unmasking for me was me feeling brave enough to pass it back. So rather than me running around like the rat chasing that cheese and going at 1,000,000 miles an hour and making everybody else feel comfortable with my behavior, right? So I saw everything as a problem. I'm still unmasking. I'm still trying to unpick that I'm not always in trouble. I assume I'm in trouble. I assume I'm always in the wrong and I'm always in trouble. What did I do? What did I do? It's that feeling that, and but I think for me, the unmasking was that it was how I experimented a lot with doing things differently, particularly in business, actually, because I'd worked with so many neurotypical business coaches and just fell flat on it every time and didn't want to do it and was bored shitless by their ways of working. And I know we think every entrepreneur is ADHD, but they're not. There is some that are neurotypical and very linear in their processing, and it just didn't work. So I started to think, well, if something's not working, let's experiment with what I could do. How could I do it that was more me, and see how that felt? So initially it was kind of that. And then it was more advocating for myself and saying, yeah, I noticed that I do this, so I'm just going to say this to you directly, and you can sit in the discomfort of that rather than me internalizing that discomfort that I'm feeling. And that has been a process. When was I diagnosed? About 5 years ago. And I think what I find interesting, and lots of you will have experienced this, and those that are listening will probably experience that, when you get a diagnosis and you begin to unmask, people will say you're doing it on purpose, you're being more ADHD, which is so hilarious for us, because we're going, I'm not being more ADHD, I'm being more me, which is by default ADHD. I was pretending before. And that's what, so for me, that I definitely got I definitely felt that feeling of, I guess, a little bit like my dad described it, and it was quite a good description. My cousin who's gay, my boy cousin who's gay, my younger cousin, who I imagine is still 10, but he's about 30. So um, he told us he was gay quite later on. I mean, he was still quite young, but he was in a long-term girl relationship, and then he told us he was gay. And he appeared more gay, flamboyant, more camp afterwards. And you would be forgiven, I guess, or people who don't get it would be forgiven for thinking, he's putting that on now. He's being more gay, whatever that means, right? But I actually think it's very similar. He was always that version of him. He just hid that version of him because he didn't feel safe. And so for a lot of us ADHDers and autistic people, we've hidden it because the moment we didn't hide it previously, somebody went, why are you doing that? Stop doing that. That's weird. Sit still. Don't do it that way. That's unusual. Get in line. And so we knew that felt unsafe. So I think unmasking, it's a process. Like I wouldn't say, I think I know I'm myself in every situation. Like I don't feel like I'm not being myself. I think the unmasking comes from hyper independence is something that shows up for me so heavily, and always being the one that will take charge. And sometimes I want somebody else to be the loudest in the room, and I want somebody else to take charge. And I'm still struggling with that. I'm still struggling to ask for help. I still struggle to not just do it because it would take longer to explain it to somebody else. So there's still work to be done, but I think, yeah, very similar to you. It was a process, I guess.
And I think it's a constant thing as well. Like, as we, you know, we've got what, like 30 odd years to unpick of masking. So it's going to take time. So I had a bit of a realization this week, and I wondered if it's something that you and other people thought too. Like you said about business, I've really been thinking, especially like with doing this whole podcast launch, if I was to go to a normal person who's like a business coach and they'd be like, right, you've got to do a 12-week plan. You've got to have all your content done. You've got to do all your emails set up and make sure everything's like perfect in line before you did that. If I had done that, we would not be here today because I would literally lose interest. And I think that's where I've gone wrong in the past, is listening to someone because that's the right way. But what I've realized is that that's what life has been made up of, me trying to do things in the right way when it comes to motherhood, when it comes to work, when it comes to like organizing the house. And actually, that's just the right way for one person rather than for what's the right way for you. And that's just been like a big light bulb moment that I've had this week. And I just wondered how, especially like in your motherhood journey, obviously you've had a really complicated one with kind of the grief process as well. Have you kind of seen that in your journey as well?
I mean, that you saying that gives me kind of goosebumps about it because that it's that. And I think it's been huge for me. I think because of grief, I knew I had to do motherhood differently very soon on. You know, girls were 6 and 4 when Ross died. So in a way, I didn't associate that with ADHD. I have started to understand that. But I think grief almost gave me a let off in terms of other people's eyes. They're doing it differently. But I now realize, you know, my house is, you know, similar to lots of people's that are ADHD themselves. My house is full of all of the neurodivergence known to man. And it's loud and it's passionate and we'll scream in each other's faces likely, and you know, and also tell each other we love each other with our whole hearts. There's no in between very often. And I think I've had to let go of a lot of stuff around that, you know, like food while everybody's eating. Like everybody's getting different meals. Accept it. Like everyone's getting different meals on different plates in the order that they want it and with the utensils that they use. And I can't get people to sit at the table. I don't want to sit at the table. So I'm not going to say that to them. And also there was the added thing for us when it comes to sitting at the table that I recognized for my oldest early on. Sitting at the table meant there was dad missing. So people saying she needs to sit at the table and sit still at the table, well, it felt really triggering, and she would literally just lob the food across the room and stuff, and we would have meltdowns. My oldest is autistic. And so, yeah, definitely in motherhood, definitely in business. I think, you know, you're talking about business and and this is so funny, like people will say, and I'm just going to say to you right now, I do not have a plan for next year. I'm not saying I'm completely winged. I'm not. I don't have a plan. I kind of know some of the stuff I'm doing. I have my mastermind is happening next year. I'm going to do an event. I know that's happening. The rest of it, I will work it out. And I know that I'm not saying we should I don't want to just say, oh, I'm just going to wing everything, because that doesn't always serve us. It's a duality. We know that we really benefit from scheduling and some kind of order, but there has to be wiggle room. And so for me, and this has really helped actually in work, is recognize it and letting myself do that, because I knew it, but I would judge myself for it. So I would still do that stuff. I would be working in the house and I would think there are some days I can sit in my laptop and do written work, no problem. And there are other days where I literally don't want to do that. I don't want to be near that. I don't want to be near the computer. I don't want to wear shoes. I don't want, like, everything's irritating the hell out of me. And again, I would like in the past, I'd have just been like, you so shit. What a shit person. Like, how crap you are at business. Whereas now I'm just like, okay, that's not going to work. So maybe I need to work on the floor. Maybe I've got bifold doors in my kitchen. Maybe I just need to get a pen and we do it on there, or I put pieces of paper and I can draw it out, and that will feel like an easier way of doing it. Maybe I need to voice note stuff today and I dictate everything as I'm walking around the house. I have to find another way of doing it. The minute somebody tells me, and I think this is why I've really struggled in a lot of group business spaces. I think there are a few people that I know, a few coaches that I would trust enough to hold space, and they would get it and they wouldn't judge and they would go with it. But I think that comes from us leading that as well, by the way, because I've had people work for me over the last year, and two people I've worked with. One was a PR, Carol Driver. If anybody knows Carol, I would very much recommend her as a PR. I came to Carol having spoken to tons of PR people for my second book who wanted to charge me a joke of amount of money. And I am a journalist's dream. I've got stories for days. I've got TV shows you can hook on to. Like, if you can't get me in a newspaper or a magazine, you're not good at your job. So I wanted to show up and be like, I know I can do it myself. I want someone else to do it. And when I came to Carol, I was like, look, I've got a million ideas and I want to be able to tell you those ideas. I know not all of them are going to work. I know I'm not expecting you to answer me at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm putting those ideas into a WhatsApp group, but I'm just letting you know I'm going to do that and I'm going to fire stuff off. But on the flip side of that, you tell me that the Daily Mirror or Psychology's magazine wants an article written in half an hour. The article is going to be written in half an hour and it's going to be fucking brilliant. So we're going to get a payoff here. But and the same goes for Charlotte Wibberley, who we are now working together. She's also ADHD, on a mastermind next year called the Weird AF Mastermind for business owners. And it's all about being your weirdest self. I got her to work with me by essentially and some of you may have even seen this post if you're in similar spaces. I'm sure you did, Anna. But I did a post, was it last year or the beginning of this year, where I was at the end of my tether. I was exhausted. I was burning out. I was the rat running about looking for that cheese. And I'd employed VAs and people doing this, that, and the other, but it was one-offs. And I couldn't employ somebody full-time. I'm not at that level yet. But I knew I needed to bring somebody in to be working with me long-term. But there's a ton of shame around that, right? There is a ton of shame because it's a mess. You're doing stuff in a way that nobody's going to understand. That's what you think, right? I'm not using spreadsheets. Look, there's paper everywhere. There's notes everywhere. There's random ideas. There's notebooks, right? It's not in a way. And so I basically put a post out saying, I don't know what I need, but this is where I'm at. I have a business that's doing well. It's working. It needs to step up though, because I need to make some more money, because these kids have got clubs for days and I need support with that. But essentially I need a business mom and dad and someone who's going to stop me going off on somewhere else and thinking of another idea, because I don't want to finish the one I'm doing. And I spoke to Charlotte, and I think the fact, one, she was 80, I can say, so her Lady D said, so she's glad that it's not her with paper everywhere. It's definitely not just you, I promise. And I spoke to Charlotte and I was able to feel safe enough with Charlotte, because she's ADHD and because she has a really calming nature about her, to go look behind the curtain, because it's chaos behind here, but I really do need help with it. And that, I think, for a lot of business owners in neurotypical spaces, we can't do it. So we mask harder and we try to look like we're doing it well. And we then turn on ourselves when it doesn't work, because then we think, it's me then, because all of these people are doing fine with it. It's not you. It's just not the right space. Literally, this is why, and I'm not here to just plug stuff. I've actually filled the spaces for this quarter, maybe next year. But the Weird AF Mastermind, that's exactly who it's for. It's it's obviously already attracted predominantly. I don't know if there's anyone that's not neurodivergent in it, but the reason for that is I cannot work with you as a templated human being. You are all so different and you have your own stuff going on. Our lives are in context. You know, if someone's to say, why don't you do that laptop lifestyle and you can go on the beach and stuff and do your work there? And like, I've got kids that like have stuff, and we have people we care for, and we have, you know, so I think for me, that trust piece is really important for us as ADHD, as in, yeah, trying to find a way to do it in your own weird way, whether it's being a parent, whether it is work and that, and letting go of the shame of that, because it's not wrong. How you're doing it is not wrong. Like you just said, this podcast wouldn't exist if someone made you do all that stuff. You'd be so bored. It makes me itch. Like the minute they start talking to me about, could you put it on this spreadsheet? Well, I guess I could, but it's going to take so many spoons that I'm going to die of boredom. And you can't die of boredom, but it feels like it sometimes, doesn't it? So we have to have breaks. And my breaks, I don't know what yours are, Anna, but I know you're a creative soul. So mine are, at the moment, I'm finding places in my house to paint random shit on. So I just discovered a new favorite place. I know you guys are going to get it, so I'm going to tell you about it. No one else is going to understand, right? But where my washing machine is, there's a little cupboard, right? Really small washing machine, microwave, tools and shit like that, toilet roll. But I realized there's a whole light grey wall space that nothing's on, and it's in a cupboard. What's even nicer, for I don't know if anyone else likes this, but like just being in a little small space when everyone's annoying you and it's just quiet and I can get in it in the cupboard. And so when I'm getting stressed out and I'm like, don't want to do my work anymore, I don't want to be an adult, I just go in there and I start painting stuff on the wall in there and just release that little ADHD steam, and it's great. And it's not, I'm not messing up. Like sometimes you do a wall and then you half do it and then you think, oh, it actually is on show. If it's crap, it's just in the cupboard anyway. So it's been delightful, but that's my way of getting through some of the boring stuff I have to do.
I love that. Love that. I've got the itch to paint at the minute because we've got a new sofa and now it looks too cream, and I've got the itch to paint, but I haven't got the rollers. So yeah, I completely get that. I really do. Thank you so much. Before we sign off, I'm aware that it is Christmas time and I would love to know, is there any tips you would give us for the Christmas overwhelm that we are experiencing and about to experience?
I have a little gift for you all. And interestingly enough, it wasn't actually, I didn't know you were going to ask me that, but it is literally about the chaos of Christmas. And I would love to send everybody this. There is also Christmas bingo, which is with all of the things that people say to us that annoy us, but we make it fun. So, like, you know, when someone's like, oh, you've put on weight, or, oh, you know, when you're going to get a proper job, or, you know, oh, if you finish that thing, or you're going to have kids, or you're going to get married, whatever stupid shit people say when we have to be around them, you can make it into a fun game, which obviously is great for us. And then you don't get as annoyed because you're like, but I won at bingo. I won at Christmas bingo. So it's fine. So I will send you that. But I think the biggest thing for all of us, right, is to look at what are our Christmas fundamentals? What is actually important for us at Christmas? The rest of it can go in the bin. The rest of it can be left. So for me, the fundamentals of Christmas are, I would like to give out some gifts to the people that I love. So I would like to do that. I'd like to give my kids some things that would make them smile. I would like to eat some good food at Christmas and see family. That's pretty much it. Anything outside of that, it literally doesn't matter and it's not that important. So my house will be a mess and there will be things that I drop the ball on. And if I can ahead of time, and I really encourage you all to, if I can get in my mind, it's okay. That's okay if that's not done well. Because you know what? For us to deal with all of the stuff that Christmas entails, it's a lot more than it is for neurotypical people. We are sensory human beings and everything is noisy right now. There's things to do, there's things in the shops, there's expectations, there's literally lights and noise and songs and things that are going to annoy us. That's a lot for anybody. And so I think giving yourself, just acknowledging that to start with, and then saying to yourself, it's okay to go for good enough. and find the joy in it. And the last thing I would say, and this is something I did naturally, but I encourage you to do this and to maybe speak to people that you love and let them know that you'll do this, but have spaces to go and take a break during the time when you're spending time with people. I am the person that will just flake off somewhere and people are like, where's she gone? And I'm just somewhere not people in for a bit because it's just too much. But I think if you've got the right people around you, not everybody will have, and they probably won't, some people won't understand it. That's tricky, but you have to still find moments of peace. It might be hiding in the toilet. The toilet is always there. It might be taking the dog for a walk or going for a walk or doing a fake phone call somewhere that's very, very important. You must take it now, but it just gives yourself some space. You might even create yourself a little I'm losing my shit pack and hide it somewhere where you've got to be, like a little break glass kind of thing, and where it's just got some things that make you feel good in it ready, because you're going to need to chill, whether it's, you know, noise cancelling headphones, your favorite playlist ready to go, snacks, always good for snacks, but just so that you can go and zone out somewhere, because you're probably going to need it. Like I don't think there's many of us that won't need that over the Christmas time. And just don't worry about all the mess that's going to ensue. It's so what, you'll work it out. Put it all in the tip in the new year. So,
Absolutely. I'm definitely lowering my expectations. I think that's a big thing I've learned this year is lower expectations, and then whatever comes is a bonus. Like normally I stress myself out and I declutter. I basically just shove things in doom bags and boxes and then in the cupboard. And this year I'm just like, it's literally my family coming. It is what it is. They see the mess every week when they come. So I'm just lowering expectations and just, like you said, I'm liking the fundamentals idea. I'm going to work out mine. Thank you, Holly. Thank you so much, everyone here. Please do follow on the podcast. It's called Following now on Apple Podcasts, not subscribing. I don't know what it's called on Spotify. Follow, subscribe, whatever. It is on Spotify or Apple or both if you want. And leave a review as well if you like, because that would be apparently that helps boost it up. Obviously, I'm new to this, so I don't really know, but that's what they say. Thank you so much again, Holly, and thank you everyone else who joined live. Thanks for that download. I will add that as well into the show notes. Oh, can I take a quick picture? If you don't want to be on camera, Leslie, feel free to hide if you don't mind. Right, fab. Smile! Amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you all being here, and yeah, sending you all lots of love. And have a Merry Christmas! Bye!
water everywhere. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas!